This is my critique for the depth of field photos. Okay, so here I'm assuming are the two that you use different, the two of the same composition with a shallower or longer depth of field. So f3.1 and okay. And then that one was about the same, but let's see, 5.6 versus 4.5. So I guess one was maybe a little more zoomed in than the other one. They look very similar, and I'm going to say this throughout everybody's. Depending on what camera you have, I know there's not a ton of control on them in terms of the numbers that you can insert. Can you tell it to be 3.1? Can you tell it to be f8, f11, whatever those numbers are? So if you can't, I totally understand that. But I just want you to keep practicing with this to know how you can accomplish these assignments. So for instance, had you gotten closer in over here and maybe this was in focus, would it fallen out of focus quicker towards the background? Because this one definitely seems like this is sharper and it does fall out of focus quicker. So anyway, I'm not going to be too hard on this assignment on anybody's for this. Because I know a lot of y'all have just kind of point and shoot cameras with not a lot of control, and please don't get frustrated with the previous assignment and this one, because after this it really is just the art of photography. I'm going to give you kind of general assignments, a theme, and you have to go out and photograph it, basically using these techniques and then running with it. So good attempt on that one. Definitely that falls out of focus in the background. Just wondering, do you like the way that that is in the background? Does that add to your photo? Does it not? I think it works in black and white. Let's see, this one definitely, something in here is supposed to be sharp and then it definitely falls out of focus. It's just hard for me to tell what's supposed to be sharp. And it might just be because there's some motion blur because it was less than a 60th of a second. Remember on the last critique, I had talked about less than a 60th of a second, you might get some motion blur. So that might be why something in here should be sharp, but it's just not quite sharp. So just look at that. But great attempt on that, yeah. Okay, so this one, definitely everything's in focus. Like we had talked about in the very beginning, even though we had talked about rule of thirds centering on this one, I think works very, very well. Maybe just a hair more contrast in this one, but I like it the way it is. It's kind of gives it kind of an eerie feel that there's this random bench in the middle of nowhere. I can't tell if it looks like you would have, I don't know, I guess what I was going to say, use maybe some of your motion assignment with this one. Run up and push the bench, and then have it get a little bit of motion inside of all this other stuff that's going on, maybe. See if that works or not. Okay, and then again, this one, yeah, this step is in focus, this is in focus, that's in focus in the background. Very good. A 30th of a second. Just be careful for whatever reason. It seems like a lot of your photos could be a lot faster shutter speed. And the reading that's going to happen, I think at the end of this week or maybe early next week, it's going to talk about how ISO plays a part with this and how they work off each other. Just so you can get, because it looks a little soft, and soft meaning just it's not quite in focus or as sharp as it could be. But I definitely like this image a lot. There's a lot of story going on with here. I'm assuming maybe it's a place you live or a friend lives for their outdoor camp or thing they're doing. I wonder if the door could stay open, it might look a little more inviting, and then maybe we could see a little bit more of what's in the background. But yeah, good job with that. Okay. Let's see, I'll just start at the end. Okay, so these two are, I'm assuming your one's the same composition, so f3.1. So should be not much in focus, but the wider you shoot, so meaning the lower the number this is, more is going to be in focus, just because. That's just the way lenses work. And later in the semester, we're going to talk about lenses and how they work, zooming in, zooming out, how that works. Okay, so this one, f11, of course, should be more in focus. yeah, good job just knowing that you know how to accomplish those things. Um, I think your first one could have been a little less in focus, like I gave in that example with the girl on the by the bay there with the boats and the shop in the background. But no, it seems like you know how to do it. It's a very interesting angle. I mean, people on the, I'm assuming it's a, looks like a Ferris wheel. Um, don't normally look up like this. So yeah, good job. I think these might also work in black and white, maybe. You know, something to try. Okay, so with this one, he's in focus, that's in focus, the cloud is in focus. As you can see by F12, higher the number, more in focus. Yeah, he's looking into the frame. It's kind of a strange thing going on, not in a bad way, just, yeah, never seen that before. Or never seen that, you know, that guy before. Okay, same thing here. Looks like Tallulah Gorge. I could be wrong, but yeah. And that's great. The higher the F number for landscapes works really well. I like that you have the people on the bridge just for scale. I mean, we would obviously know that that's a bridge, but really with the people on there, it adds to it. And that you're not putting them directly in the center, you're putting them up there. Okay. So, yes, this is in focus. That starts to fall out of focus. Maybe a little more contrast, and I'll probably say that on a lot of people's, because I like a lot of contrast and a lot of blacks and a lot of whites in my image. I was always told with darkroom black and white images that you have to have a part that is black, and a part that is like white-ish, you know, white, clear almost in your image as well. And I only might say it just because back here it gets a little gray, but it might add to it because it separates it from the background. So yeah, it's just the audience's choice, but good work on that one. And then yeah, again here, this is definitely sharp here, and that leaf looks sharp, and then of course, yeah, it falls out of focus. All right, good job on those. All right. Okay, so this one with a low F number, it really should be that this is in focus and that falls out of focus, but because you're shooting so wide, it's really hard to accomplish that. If you would have just stepped back and zoomed in, this would have been in focus and that would have fallen out of focus. Okay, and with that one, and it also has to do with the distance between you, your subject, and the background, how stuff works in terms of what's in focus, what's out of focus. And I could get kind of technical with it. We don't need to really go there. Just know how your camera works and how you can accomplish it, and just making sure that you're controlling the camera, not that the camera is controlling you. So if this is the way you want the image to turn out, great, good for you. My only thing would be if you could have taken 2 steps to the left and just blocked out that thing there. Like that, I feel like kind of fits, but that cell phone tower in the background just takes away from it just a hair. And you know, if we were going into Photoshop, it's a 2-second quick fix to get rid of that if you wanted to. But no, I like it. I mean, that's definitely what we look at there. I think those could have been more out of focus, but not bad. Have you tried it in black and white, or have you also tried it maybe just cropping kind of there and then over maybe to the water tower? Just a thought. Oops. Oh, okay. So this one definitely looks like this is in focus, and that is. And a slight thing, it looks like the horizon here is a little bit lower to the left than that one. So maybe straighten that up a little bit, and I think a little bit of contrast would help that one as well. Just wondering what anybody else thinks about, you know, maybe cropping that down, just a long horizontal, just because there is a lot of dead space up here that really isn't doing anything for the ship. Had there been a lot of clouds or, I don't know, sun coming in, maybe that would have helped a little bit, but I don't know if we're gaining anything from all that space up there. All right, definitely. So that's sharp. Everything else is out of focus. I mean, easy what we were talking about with this assignment. All right, then these two. So this one, definitely right there is sharp. And then, of course, there's a lot more in focus. You know, basically beginning there all the way to infinity. So yeah, good work on that. Also think about where you're placing what's sharp. Because you know how we talked about our rule of thirds, and you can put what's the focus of your frame on one, say down here or down here. Well, think about whatever's in focus. You could place it here, or you could place it here if you wanted to. So think about where your camera focuses, and what you can do is when you frame your subject, push your shutter halfway down, and it should focus on something. When it focuses, don't be afraid to keep your shutter pushed halfway down and then reposition your camera to make a new composition if you want to. So play around with that. It also works the same because these next pages talk about exposure, and you can overexpose or underexpose. What you can do is a lot of things when people photograph, especially with smartphones, there's a beautiful sunrise in the background, or a sunrise or sunset. Well, they put the horizon right in the center, but it can't expose for the bottom or the top. So what you can do is put your camera and just fill the frame with the sun, push your shutter halfway down, keep it halfway down, and then recompose the frame, and then finish pushing the shutter down. Or vice versa. If what's in the foreground is more important than the sky in the background, fill the frame with the foreground, push your shutter halfway down, keep it pushed down, recompose your image, and then finish pushing the shutter. Okay, so with this one, let's see, you've got F5 and F5. So it almost just looks like what you did, which there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different way of looking at it. It almost looks like this is more in focus in this image, and then that's more in focus in that image. So good attempt at this. I was looking for something a little bit different, but that would be fine. We're also going to talk about color coming up in the next couple weeks, which don't worry about it too much now. But you did good with this in terms of being able to get a shallow depth of field, and your attention goes right there. And also just how, I know I've got a 2-year-old, so I know how small these blocks are, but of course this thing looks massive compared to the feet. So just that perspective and how you're framing an image works really well. Okay, so shallow depth of field there, that's in focus, everything else falls out of focus. You're slightly off, leaning to the left. I'm just wondering if that adds to it, or if you could maybe make it lean a little bit more, might add to it more. Okay, so with this one, that's definitely in focus, and everything falls out of focus. I like how the remote leads right to the kid's head looking out the window. If you get a chance, I would play around with this assignment outside more if you can, just because you're going to have more light out there and maybe a little bit more control as well. But you can see how this being sharp, I mean, you're really just looking here, and even though it's so busy in the background, you don't focus on that stuff as much. Okay, and then yeah, here everything's in focus. Fingers all the way back to the background. Yeah, I like the composition there, definitely. Definitely filling the frame. And again, perspective, the child looks huge compared to all this other stuff that's going on in the background. All right, so I like it in black and white. I'm just wondering, does this back here and this over here add to the image, or could you have placed him more on a solid background, more of this the siding on the house? If you think it adds to it, that's your decision. But of course, this being in focus, his eyes, always with people, you want to make sure the eyes are in focus as best as possible. We go right there, especially him being in the center, and I think being in the center works. I did notice on your images, it looks like you might have used a filter to blur stuff out in the background, and if that is the case, please try for your final turn-in to take more photos where it really is just your aperture and your camera creating the depth of field, not just a filter or a Photoshop technique or something like that after the fact. But of course, here with this image, it's definitely sharp going into out of focus, and then it looks like you did kind of vice versa on that. So yeah, just experiment more with it so you know how to do it in your camera more than doing it with a filter. And I could be wrong. If it's not a filter, just let me know. Same thing here, because it looks like there's the I don't know how to explain it, those lines going through stuff. But yeah, that's definitely sharp, and then it looks like it falls out of focus, or it looks blurry as it goes out. Nice pop of color there. And then same thing here. That it looks like it has that filter on it. But otherwise, good ones. I'm wondering, like with this one, was it just a random, image that you took, or did you find something special to you? So let me know if you all have any questions, and I'll talk to you all soon.